Ultimate Urban Fantasy Podcast, episode number 11. You're listening to the Ultimate Urban Fantasy Podcast. We've got all that's awesomely supernatural on TV, movies, books, games, and more. Your one-stop podcast for vampires, werewolves, mutants, and myths. And now here are your hosts, Archer, Sherry, and Ravenheart. Hi, I'm S.A. Archer, co-creator of the urban fantasy series The She, and my co-host is Sherry Sameen, actress and voice talent. And this is the Ultimate Urban Fantasy Podcast. And today I'm totally geeking out because we have we have author Sean Platt with us.
Hello.
Hi, Shawn.
Hello.
It's a serious subject we're doing today.
Okay, serious. Zombies. Very serious.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
We're talking about the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse. That's huge. And you guys were both saying, well, at least Sherry was saying she's done some research about how serious people take this.
Oh, people do take this really seriously.
Oh my gosh. We brought it up during a podcast just going, that would make a really funny topic because I see the humor in it, me personally. I started asking people I know that are into all this stuff, and they've got rally points. They've got who's going to go and get the supplies and who's going to raid what. And I'm going, what? There's a rally point? They go, oh yeah, 20 of our friends, we're all meeting at this farmhouse. And I'm going to go to, my job is to go to every pharmacy store and get all the medicines. And I'm like,
yeah, but Murphy's Law, those are the first to go. Like that. All that planning will be for naught. Guys like me, we're going to live forever because we don't give a shit.
I was just blown away because I'm taking it as a funny topic. Like, okay, this is what I would do. And my husband had a plan which surprisingly matched this guy's plan, the one with the rally point. They had the same plan. It must be a guy thing. They wanted to hijack a boat.
I've toyed with that plan. That's a good idea.
And they want to live off the water because for some reason zombies can't swim.
Zombies can't swim, and you're safe. And
they can't.
You can fish.
Yeah. I don't know. My thing was, I go, you know what I would do if the zombie apocalypse happened is I would go to my window and look out it because I want to know if it's officially begun. Because I want to know, how do you know? I mean, does it start with one zombie?
Well, I think you'd start with the news, and then there'd be, this little pocket of whatever here, and this little pocket over here, and then it spreads like the bird flu, and then everybody's a zombie. Which is why when we wrote Z, I didn't want to deal with the contagion or the outbreak, so we just set it 100 years in the future. It was way easier.
Way easier.
The zombie apocalypse already came and went, and these are the it's easier that way. Okay. Then they were just an aside.
I was gonna say, so what are you guys gonna do? Because my first thing is look out the window and go from there. Because I just got to make sure it's really going to happen.
I'm totally going to be dead. We had another author on, and he's like, first thing I'm going to do is scream like a little girl, and then about 5 minutes later, I'm going to be walking through the streets going, brain.
I'm not sure I want to survive a zombie apocalypse. Like, that's not any quality of life.
I know. Well, that's what my daughter said. Well, okay, I got to tell you, my daughter's 7.5, and I asked her. I took a poll of everybody. Okay, I said, what would you do? Because she's into zombies, and she goes, first, I would go to the kitchen and get all the knives, and I'm like, okay, and she goes, and then I'm gonna booby trap them all over the house, and then I'm gonna go in the closet and shut the door. And I'm going,
but then she's trapped.
That's what I said. I go, but honey, eventually you're going to run out of food and water and you don't have a toilet. And she goes, well, I'd rather die of starvation in the closet than be eaten by zombies. And
yeah, until you get that gnawing in your stomach and your survival instinct sends you out of the closet and into the zombie's clutches. Really, the best thing to do is just kill yourself right then.
Yeah. Well, that's my 7-year-old's philosophy. I'm going to booby trap the house with knives.
Yeah, she watched Home Alone too many times. It won't work.
I guess part of it will be what happened. Like, how does the apocalypse happen? If it's like Sean said, and it's like just small pockets and it's slowly spreading, then
Can't we just kill them off? If they're small
well,
pockets?
you hope. Well, didn't they do that in that movie I Am Legend or something? Like, just block off the whole city.
Yeah, they wall it off. I mean, have you guys seen the new trailer for World War Z?
No.
Not yet.
Which has like flying zombies.
Oh, great! That's great.
Yeah, these zombies are like they're running in giant swarms and like attacking helicopters, and it's ludicrous, but kind of awesome looking.
That is crazy. That is crazy. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't. Well, have you seen that show Surviving Zombies? Where
No.
those people. It's a reality show, and they are freaking serious. I was telling Archer and Ravenheart about it. I mean, they are like seriously. They're building things. They're building a well. It's a bunch of guys, and what they would really do.
It's like the survivalists up in Montana. It's the same kind of thing. It's just that they believe that the zombie apocalypse will happen.
Well, I know, and then I got the real extremists. Okay, the same couple, Kathy and Chuck, the ones that have the rally point.
Mhm.
Okay, Chuck and maybe Kathy too. They told me that zombies are really code for liberals. And it's the liberal apocalypse, and it's not really the zombies.
So do they want brains too?
I don't know. They're saying that this whole zombie apocalypse is the code, and I'm sure they're going to watch this and listen to this and hear what I'm saying. But I mean, it's true. But I mean, because I told them I was going to tell their thing on here. It's a code, and everybody knows that it's a code, and they don't really mean zombies. They mean liberals. I know. I'm like, what?
Wow, it's like a whole underbelly I just didn't even know about.
I know. That's what I felt like. My head exploded, and I'm like, what? I was just going to do this for fun. And now you're telling me there's a whole bunch of people out there that'll be pissed off because I'm making fun of.
I feel so enlightened.
I got a weird group of friends. I tell you.
I've got two brothers, and I've got one who's very serious about that there's going to be some kind of incident that he's going to have to be survivalist for. He's preparing for it. He was preparing for it with the last election with Obama, because he was certain that Obama was going to declare himself a dictator and take over, but then he won the election, so he didn't need to do that yet. So that has been put off for 4 years before he declares himself dictator. But he's got his basement. Every time he goes to Walmart, he grabs ammunition to add to his stockpile. So he's ready for some survivalist event. And then I have another brother who is like all about the zombies. So I was able to kind of talk to both of them, and the one that's all about the zombies actually gave me his poster. Government issue zombie survival poster.
Oh, wow. That's
Wow.
awesome. Yeah, the CDC apparently has some like officially like done up stuff now, which is crazy.
The government knows something.
And one of our authors we talked to a couple weeks ago, she said they actually have bullets out now that say zombie killer bullets.
Right.
They're like high impact rounds.
Wow.
They're selling
Really?
them. Yeah, they're selling them under the zombie.
You could peg a zombie with like BBs. They have soft, rotten flesh. What the hell do you need like high impact bullets for? I mean, do you not watch The Walking Dead? They're hitting them like T-balls. You do not need high impact explosive bullets for that.
Well, here I even interviewed my parents, and they're 75 and 80. Okay, and my dad is a veteran of Vietnam and Korea. And he's got some dementia, so he's got some issues there. But I'm sitting there going, what would you do? And then we're actually discussing how you kill zombies, and it was so funny because he was like, well, I don't believe you just cut their head off. I don't see how that would work. Why would that? And I'm going, you cut their head off. And then I'm like having this surreal moment, like I'm discussing killing zombies with my 80-year-old father with dementia. I mean, it was like, what the hell? And my mom's just sitting there going, Yeah.
I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I'm like, you just don't send them into a tirade. That's all, please. Don't, because they'll go off in a anger when he gets
I
frustrated.
could certainly see some kind of an apocalypse happening, but the zombie one, I don't buy it.
What I don't understand is they make it seem like we're going to lose everything all in one fell swoop, and I'm going, like my husband, I'm like, James, we're just getting zombies. We should still have electricity. We should still have jobs. We should still...
Well, no, because if the zombies our infrastructure would crumble.
But why?
Well, because it's a contagion, and I mean, if you're a zombie, you're not running the water plant.
But if they don't start all at like a million zombies, if they start slow, can't we just run them over with our car? Can't we just,
Well, you would think so, but when you go to run them over your car, you get bit, and then you become part of the zombie.
But how can that be if I'm in my car and I've run them over?
Well,
there's so many.
There's so many. They swarm. But
they have to start. That's my thing. Look out the window and see how many are there. I mean, they start in a mass number. That's my thing. And I just feel like I have a fighting chance.
Well, it's because it's not like you're running. It's not running from the bulls, but with zombies. Like you have to go into you go into what you think is a sparsely populated area, and then you suddenly find yourself surrounded by zombies, and then boom, you're a zombie. And wow, is this a real conversation?
Yeah. And then I figure, are they slow zombies, or can they move like normal people? Because if they're slow, I'm pretty sure they can't catch me.
So this is what my brother says.
Okay.
He says that actually there are going to be fast and slow zombies. That when you're first zombified, you still have all the capabilities that your body had. You were as strong as you were, but you're kind of like, because you have no pain, you can push yourself to your full limits. But then you're going to hit that rigor mortis, and that'll slow you down because you can't hardly move. But
that actually makes perfect sense. I buy that.
And then when the rigor mortis passes, you're back up to your full speed. But as you rot, you're going to slow down again. So you'll go normal speed, then you'll slow way down, then you'll come back up to normal speed, and then you'll have like a long decline as you slowly rot away. Like your body's just going to be falling apart eventually over time. So
yeah, I totally buy that. I mean, if I buy the zombie thing.
Yeah, I know. Where does he get his info? I mean,
he's gotten all of the zombie survivor guides, and there's books about how to do.
I'm serious. I had no idea the level of interest in zombies. I mean, I was noticing them showing up, like I was telling Archer before, in auditions. It was like every movie had something and zombies, something and zombies. And I'm like, why does every film out there have a freaking zombie in
because
it?
It's really it fascinates people. Zombies are a new monster. George Romero invented them. So before that, we didn't have zombies, and that's pretty interesting. And now we have our first over the last few years, it's kind of interesting to watch the evolution of what's happened to the zombie, because first we comedified it with Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
And that was
good.
That was funny. So it took something that was actually before Shaun of the Dead, I would argue, we had a big evolution with 28 Days Later, which those weren't even real zombies because they're not undead, but it took the zombie idea, and these were like rabid humans, and that was scary to me. That might be my favorite zombie movie, because it's not even a real zombie movie, but it is. But it's got a kick-ass director kind of exploring this theme, and that was actually terrifying to me, because mostly zombies, I think, are either stupid or funny. Like, I'm not afraid of zombies.
Yeah, like Resident Evil that's like scary. I can't do scary movies. But that's like scary zombies.
Oh, I love scary movies, but zombies don't scare me. I easily, because you always put yourself in that situation. And like Walking Dead, I don't feel scared in Walking Dead. I feel like desperate and hopeless and want to kill myself. Totally different thing.
Okay.
Where it's just like that show is just so ripe with despair, and these people are just like seconds from giving up. But with something like Dawn of the Dead, I'm just, okay, so I'm in a mall, and there's like, there's plenty to keep me going and to survive, and sustenance and all that. So that doesn't scare me. 28 Days Later, where you're basically talking about rabid humans, That's scary. That's really scary. But then we have Shaun of the Dead, which made it comedic, and then things like Zombieland, and it's just kind of changed. The whole nature of zombies has evolved, and it's become major, more of a pop culture thing. And now we have World War Z coming out in a couple of months, which, well, I guess it's summer, which is around the time Z second season will be out, about the same time as World War Z. And World War Z is a PG-13 zombie movie. So
oh my gosh,
we've never seen that before. And what that basically tells you is that it's the mass commercialization of zombies. Certainly the movie, if it was literally translated from the book, would be an R-rated film. But that's not the movie they made. They made a mass consumption product, which is fine. I'm not shitting on it at all. I think that's perfectly fine. But it tells you it's gone from genre to mass market. And so that's a big shift that we're seeing this summer. And now we'll have zombie sitcoms and like, I don't know, whatever the hell they do. But zombies are officially a commodity, which is really funny if you look at what zombies are, and what Romero's original zombie stuff was commentary on commercialism and
yeah, that is kind of funny.
All the stuff that now it's very cyclical and very funny and it cracks me up.
I just watched the other day. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with the culture shift with the zombies, I was wondering, I kind of think that romance is killing the monsters. Like, we had these scary, vampires, and then romance got hold of them, and now, vampires are romantic. And then there was
sparkly.
They sparkle, yeah. And then they had these scary werewolves, and then romance got a hold of them, and now, it's all about the werewolf romances, and they've even tried to grab zombies. I've seen romances.
Oh, there was one in the theater, Warm Bodies. That was more like. Now I didn't see it, but that's the vibe I got from it. I think it's only a matter of time. I mean, but yeah, if they can turn vampires sparkly, they can turn the undead hot.
And maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's why people are more into zombies now, because they've completely ruined the scariness of the other monsters. I don't know.
I think there's always been this total niche genre thing with zombies. I think the difference now is that it's just so easy for people to share the stuff that they really like and that they really care about.
The internet has opened it up.
The internet's opened it up, and there's a lot of zombie memes and stuff like that. It totally makes sense on a practical level how it has blown up the way it has.
Yeah, or it's just a code.
It's a code.
That's a code for something else.
Yeah, I'm waiting for zombie erotica. That's gonna be hot.
Oh, that would be
sick.
God, wouldn't it? Oh my God.
Bend over. Oh wait, your arm fell off.
Hey, you know what? There's always room for another kind. I mean, it's going to be out there. If you make it, there's going to be people out there that will want to watch it.
Oh yeah, if there's Bigfoot erotica, I'm sure that zombie erotica.
I'm not going to go there, but yes, there is.
I know. I'm saying there is Bigfoot erotica, so it's only a matter of time before we see zombie erotica.
Oh my gosh. Oh, go ahead.
I was doing some checking, and I accidentally come across some stuff where like zombies are really getting out there in the popular culture outside of like movies and books. They actually have a zombie run, a 5K run that takes place in several cities. It's at thezombiерun.com, and they've got it set up now in Philadelphia, Louisville, Charlotte, Atlanta, New Orleans, St. Louis, Miami, Indianapolis, Seattle, Denver, and Nashville are all doing zombie runs. And it benefits charity. They give the money to charity. But you start off like a normal 5K run. And as you go about 1 kilometer into the race, you come across where they've spilt contaminants on the runway or the roadway, and you run through this green crap, and it's supposed to be the contagion that causes zombies. And then from the first kilometer through the 5th kilometer, you were running from people dressed up like zombies who were chasing you to the end of the.
So they had to bring in more runners. To
Yeah,
be
you can pay to be a runner, or you can pay and be a zombie, and you can.
I want to be a zombie.
I'd want to be a zombie. In
Yeah.
that context, I'd rather be a zombie. Running is more work.
Yeah, because I can slow down and take a break. I'm not in for it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm a slow zombie.
Yeah,
I'll
No,
get there.
you're on your own. You're on your own agenda.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it more real if I veer off and go have a drink and then come back to the break.
And then at the end, they have a big party, and they say kids can come. They'll do zombie makeovers for the kids, and they've got music and all kinds of stuff. So it's like a real like community event that they're doing, and it's all around zombies.
I like that. Now, see, that's fun. I think that's more fun than just running, because I'm not a runner. I'm just not. I tried it, can't do it.
That'd probably be the only 5K run I would finish.
There was an app that does that. It's an iPhone app, or yeah, I guess it's an iPhone app, and you run, and it's a. I think the way it's a book, but as you run, it tells more of the story, and you're supposed to be chased by zombies. And Dave was explaining it to me. I don't really remember the particulars, but basically it was that. It was trying to blend exercise and the zombie apocalypse. I don't know how effective it was, though.
I did on the YouTube. I did find the zombie apocalypse workout.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But I think it was more serious. Like, we are preparing for the zombie apocalypse, and these are the exercises you need to have. So
oh, well, see, that's stupid. Because...
Yeah,
that's just stupid. I figure I'll have a learning curve. That's the way I look at it. If it actually happens, then I'm going to take it seriously, and I hope to have a learning curve to survive. If not, I want at least one bullet.
Save the last one for you, huh?
Yeah, or however they go. I can't imagine having kids during a zombie apocalypse, but gosh.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's where everything would be. I would just be figuring out how to get my family to safety, and other than that, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, exactly. I just took it to a sober level, but I didn't mean because my daughter doesn't. She's all like, "This is what I would do," and don't worry about me. She's really tiny and petite, but you think she's like, I'm a warrior. Take everybody out.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about Z2134, which is Shawn's zombie novel. So I heard you describe it as a cross between The Walking Dead and Hunger Games. And that's the only thing I know about it.
I read a little bit on it, but yeah, I want to
Tell us a little bit about your book.
My writing partner, Dave, and we write serialized fiction, and our first book, or our first serial, I guess, is called Yesterday's Gone, and it's post-apocalyptic, and it's not a zombie story, but there are these creatures which behave somewhat zombie-like. It depends on whose point of view you're in the story, whether they're aliens or monsters or zombies or demons, is the religious folk call them. So they have a name just depending on who's encountering them. And Dave really wanted to write a pure zombie story, and I didn't, because I think zombies are stupid. And I've never been A, that afraid of them, or B, that into the zombie culture. My sisters were really, really into it. And, we saw Shaun of the Dead together, and that was fun, but I've just never been that into zombies. So so he wanted to write one. I wasn't that keen on it. But then I started watching Walking Dead, which I really, really like. I think it's a great show. And the reason I like it is because it's not about the zombies. The zombies, they could be werewolves, they could be anything. It doesn't matter. They could be bandits. They could be members of a rape gang. Like, it just doesn't matter. They're like out there, and they're the enemy, but or they're the threat. They're the threat. It could be, just they're scavengers, and they're people who want to do you harm because there aren't that many humans left and they want to control. Like, it doesn't matter. They're the threat. They're the external threat, but the internal drama is what keeps the show going, and the characters. And once I saw that character interaction, that's the kind of stuff I'm driven to. All of our stuff is very character oriented. So once I saw that, then I was into it, because it wasn't about zombies, it was about these people. And so we sat down, and we were trying something different. We were going to write longer episodes that were more like 30,000 words instead of the 15,000 words that we normally do, and do 4 instead of 6, and spread them out, like 1 per quarter throughout the year. So we wrote the first one, and the pitch was really simple. Like, we just wanted to get going fast. And so we said, well, what if we took Hunger Games and Walking Dead and did a mashup? And that was a lot of fun. We basically just put it in a blender, and we actually deviate from there is no Walking Dead in it at all. It's just Walking Dead has become synonymous with zombies. It's a very easy shorthand. So there is no Walking Dead whatsoever. There is a lot of Hunger Games, especially in the first book. But once the first episode, which is like the first 10, 15,000 words are over, we really stray from that, and it becomes something very different. But we did use the Hunger Games and Running Man and 1984 all to kind of set our world. And there's this thing called the Darwin Games, and the zombie apocalypse has already happened. It's 150 years or so later. The date is 2134, and the zombie apocalypse has already come and gone, and there's these 6 walled-in cities. And if you're a criminal, you get thrown outside the wall, and you have to fend for yourself out in the world with zombies chasing you. And it's all filmed on like a reality television type show, and there's good guys and bad guys, and it's all very cheesy popcorn, really fun. It's our most critically drubbed work. Certainly, our average on Amazon is around 4.8 out of 5 stars for all of us.
I like to read reviews just to get just to see what people are saying, because you never know who's saying it, and then you got people that love you, and then you got people, I swear, that are on there just to destroy you for no reason.
That book brings the haters for sure.
Yeah, well, they're just out there. They're just mucking around. I don't even know if they read it. I think they just. I'm going to say something really crappy.
Well, no, you know what the funny thing is? It does seem like a really high percentage of the poor reviews on Z haven't read it. They're referencing stuff that's only in the first few thousand words or in the product description. Which, Walking Dead meets Hunger Games, which a lot of people take umbrage to. This is just unoriginal. You ripped it off, and I mean, we're not disguising the influence. We put it in the product description. This is,
exactly.
And Hunger Games is battle royale. I mean, there are no original ideas. It's how you articulate them. And our work is really original. I've never read a book like Yesterday's Gone. I've never read a book like White Space. Our stuff is even if we take genre tropes, we do very original things with them. And we did some very cool things with Z, but it was also intentionally, from the very first word written, a commercial product, because we don't want to be starving artists. We want to have one out there that, and here's the funny thing. Yes, it's our lowest scored title at an average of 4 stars, which actually for a zombie book is not bad.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not 4.8 like our other stuff. But still, at 4. It's definitely our worst received. It's also our bestseller. So, like that's it. We knew what we were doing, and I'm proud of what we did. I stand behind the work because I think it's fantastic, and I can't wait to write the second season. Dave and I were just talking about this yesterday, actually. We can't wait to write the second season, just as a big fuck you to all the 1 stars, because we know where it's going, and it's going into places that Hunger Game has never dared. And I love Hunger Games. Like, I'm not shitting on Hunger Games at all. I just think that giving us 1 star because we use that as a pivot point is ridiculous. Like it's stupid. It's myopic thinking, really.
Yeah, it is. But some people are so fanatical about one thing that they just can't. They don't like anything that has anything to do with that. Instead of,
Right.
like instead of the compliment of taking.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too, because we get a lot of people don't realize that title is actually Amazon 47 North published and not indie published like the rest of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get just gut reactionary like crap comments like indie publishing with crappy editing. Like, no, that actually had a full professional edit, and it
That's
just
why
proves that.
You don't read the bad ones, because I swear to God, they're just out there to just.
Oh, I think they're funny. Like, I don't have a problem with them at all. I don't. I'm not my art. It's just, it is it is what it is. I get to wake up every day and make stories up for a living. I'm very, very happy with that. And if not everything I write is going to be a home run, I think I'm a damn good writer and I have fun doing it, and that's enough for me. I don't need the world to praise me. As long as I know that what I'm writing is the very, very best I can do and that it resonates with the vast majority of people who read it, and I'm making people either feel or think, then fuck the haters. Like, I don't care.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I love about theater. It's not there to make you happy or whatever. They don't care if you leave the theater hating it. They just want you to feel something when you leave.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care. I think the 1 stars are funny because it's polarizing. It's a polarizing book. There aren't a lot of 3-star reviews. They are 5 stars. They are 1 star, and I'm totally comfortable with that.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you've sold more says everything. Who cares about, like you said, who cares about the reviews when...
Well, you're going to invite criticism, too. I think a lot of it is, if you think about something like Yesterday's Gone, which it is our most popular title, it didn't have the rush of sales that Z did, but Z was also pushed by Amazon, so it makes sense. We've done Yesterday's Gone all on our own, and it's got like 450 reviews now, and almost 400 of them are 5 stars. So I'm really proud of that work. It's really good. But I don't mean the work is really good. It's been well received, which is validating. It's nice. But you have something like that, it makes sense why the reviews are better, because it's never been pushed by Amazon in the same way. So for example, with Z, when it first came out, it became one of the Kindle Select 25. So it was on everybody's Kindle, like when you open your Kindle and it's got the little book right there, right?
Yeah.
The Z was one of those for 2 days or something like that. It was on an email that went out like, these are the ones you should read this week. So it got a major push. It was on, it was on the front page of Amazon for a while. So a lot of people who aren't normally fans of that genre are going to pick it up. And it was also on sale for 99 cents. So a lot of people who wouldn't normally go out of their way to read it are reading it, and they're going to hate on it. Whereas something like Yesterday's Gone, the only way you find out about that book is if a friend tells you, or if you happen upon it because of their internal algorithm suggests it based on something else that you liked. Like if you read Stephen King's The Stand, that you may get a referral for Yesterday's Gone because it's thematically similar and some of the style is the same. And so you're so much more likely to be a fan of that particular piece of work rather than the mass broadcast of Z, which is let's throw shit against the wall and see what sticks, by recommending it to everybody who has a Kindle. And if you recommend something to everybody who has a Kindle and you pimp it as Walking Dead meets Hunger Games, A, you're going to piss people off straight out of the gate, some of those people. B, you're going to have a lot of people who are reading it who would never care about reading it otherwise. And between those two things, your reviews are going to suffer. And we were prepared. Our return rates are also the highest on Z of any other title. But again, I think that makes perfect sense. That doesn't surprise me in any way. I think it's practical. It makes sense. And I think getting upset about that kind of stuff is it destroys your ability to create, because it means that you self-edit instead of just putting out the story and expunging it from your mind, which is what you should be doing in that creative process. And I think it impedes your ability to move quickly And I think that some of what makes our work as dynamic as it is that we publish every week, and we're constantly, going and thinking of new ideas. And I think that the whole idea of, Walking Dead meets Hunger Games, yeah, it's not like an elegantly laid, like something like White Space. White Space is our most complicated series, and the plotting is really, really difficult because the amount of story threads and the amount of open loops and the amount of stuff that's going to happen, like in season 5 that we have to nest now. It's a very, very complicated story. And when we were writing Z, part of it was like, let's write something fun and fast. And so we knew where the big pivot points were, but just starting from a common, shaking the Etch-a-Sketch, starting fresh and saying, look, this is where we're starting on common pop culture touchstones right now, which are zombies, and Hunger Games is huge. So it gave us a very fertile starting ground. And most people, I mean, again, 4 stars is bad in comparison to our other stuff, but it's good in comparison to books.
But I see that happen with a lot of books. A lot of books out there sit there and name other things in their promotion.
Yes, but we didn't just do it in our promotion. We did it in our story design. So I do understand why it upsets people, but I also think that's dumb because that's how stories are written. I mean, we were just very transparent about it. I mean, we were...
No apologies.
It's like when people read short stories and then they complain that in the review, this was too short.
Exactly.
That it was a short story.
Like, why short story if you thought it was going to...
Yeah, exactly. But again, I have no problem with the haters. I feel like if you're doing stuff that doesn't make people... If no one is saying anything about you, that irrelevancy is a way bigger problem than controversy. And I don't really feel like being irrelevant. I work too hard. I write 70 hours a week. Like, I'd rather have people bitching about what I write than not saying anything about what I write. Because otherwise I feel like I'm writing into a vacuum. And at least now I get to see, the haters come out, and then I like to see the fans defend it. Like, that's fun. Not that I want my fans to be getting into fights, but it is fun to see the kind of back and forth. And I think the bottom line is creativity is borrowed. I think it's a great quote. Steve Jobs said, good artists borrow and great artists steal. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think you have to wear one of my very favorite artists is Tarantino. And that guy steals from everyone, and he does it in the most elegant, like, beautiful way. I mean, he's got that whole sequence in Kill Bill, is it volume 1 or 2? It's volume 1, that is straight out of Body Double. And like the music's, like, everything about it is the same. And that's it's not like anybody's like, guy's a fucking hack. Like, clearly he's taking his art or the things that are important to him and he's reinterpreting it in his own voice. And our book is so little like Hunger Games as to be ridiculous, but it does have the Darwin games in it, and it does have the reality television aspect. But the point is, because we're tapping into the zeitgeist, we're tapping into the pop culture. It's not that we're not intelligent enough to write a book that doesn't reference the Hunger Games. It's that we're intelligent enough to know where the zeitgeist is and what's pushing people's buttons, and and putting our finger on that pulse.
That's every art form, whether it be fashion. Fashion is nothing but recycling other people's ideas and making it your own. I mean, theater, you know what I mean? Like Tarantino for a film. I mean, that's the one thing in theater that, I mean, the director says that. Being a great director and being a great writer is listening to other people's ideas. One person can only come up with so many ideas. You take from the people around you. You take from other things and make it your own. And I see that
organic, Yeah,
and I see a lot of recycling in that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they don't sit there and go, well, I stole so-and-so's idea.
No, and in fact, do you guys know about Unicorn Western?
I know. Yeah, I know. I've watched a lot of podcasts.
Okay, so Unicorn Western is a book where I'm writing with a different writing partner named Johnny B. Truant. And Unicorn Western is just like the most ridiculous, stupid, awesomest thing ever. it's just we take a ridiculous it was actually born on one of our podcasts. Dave was saying he didn't want to write a Western, and because he didn't want to do research, and I was saying, like, you don't have to do research. Like, Django Unchained is not a researched, it's not Tom Clancy. It's a Western. Good guys, bad guys. It's a prairie. Like, there's a bad guy. And he said, go ahead, write a Western. I bet you it'll have fucking unicorns. And so we wrote Unicorn Western, and it's really, really awesome. And the way we write it is we take because there's so many Westerns out there, and there's so many genre tropes already existing. So why reinvent the wheel, and why write something from a vacuum that doesn't make sense to me? It doesn't resonate with what I think is an intelligent way to map a story. So what Johnny and I do is we'll watch a Western together. For example, the first one is based on High Noon. And
good one.
We watch the Western, and then we have a story meeting, and we take elements from that Western that we like to build our own story around. But it gives us that common touchstone that we can banter around. And then we always have a chapter within that book that's called High Noon or 3:10 to Yuma, or whatever movie we're basing that particular chapter of Unicorn Western on has that title. And so we're paying respect. We're not, hiding what we're doing. We're, again, very transparent about how we create the art. And I mean, those are pop culture, like, grab bags. Unicorn Western 3 has an appearance by Psy from Gangnam Style, which, is really, really stupid again. But if it's all about tone. This stuff is all about tone. And the tone of Z knows exactly what it is. And that's the key, I think, in intelligent art, is knowing your audience and knowing your tone. And the people who leave 1-star reviews on Z clearly don't get it, and that's okay, because we didn't write it for them. So it doesn't bother me if they write. What bothers me is if one of our fans who knows what to expect, if they're disappointed with it. If we have our regular readers, and they're leaving 1, 2, 3-star reviews, that's heartbreaking, because that means we didn't do our job. And that actually happened to us once, and we corrected it right away. But it was on the finale, the season 3 finale of Yesterday's Gone. We didn't put an epilogue on there. We talked about it over and over when we were wrapping up the season. But what we did is, Yesterday's Gone is a 6-season story, and the 3rd season ends at a midway point where we basically answer all the questions that have been asked for the first 3 seasons, and then open new wounds for the next 3. And it's just this calm before the storm. And so we wrapped everything up, and we were going to have these long epilogues, but we didn't want it to feel like Return of the King, where there's just like one ending after the other, and you're like, are you kidding me? So we wanted to avoid that, so we kind of just ended it and figured we'd pick it up later. Problem is, we were more ambiguous than we thought. And so we got a lot of reviews that were 1 and 2 stars from our most regular readers on the day that episode came out. And that was heartbreaking, because those are the people whose opinion I care about. I don't care about the asshole who leaves a 1-star review, who's never going to leave a 5-star, because they're not capable of enjoying the work for its premise. But Yesterday's Gone fans who loved it and championed it, who are now leaving 1-star review, and this is on the first day, so they downloaded, read, consumed, and responded all in a 24-hour period, and not favorably. And we're like, oh crap, we have a problem. And so we wrote an epilogue, and we updated the file, and we send it out free to our list. And it's a very loved season ending now. But all we needed to do was add a couple thousand words, and we made everything okay. But it also was a great learning thing for us, because it showed us that our fans weren't sycophants, and they are going to tell us when they think something sucked, which clearly they did, which was a little ouchy. But I was glad to know that they said what they thought when they thought it, and that we live in a time when, how horrible it would be if we weren't digital authors and all that was stuff in print that we had to recall. Like we were able to, in a 48-hour period, change the end. We actually didn't change the ending. We added the epilogue to the ending. But it was as easy as uploading that to Amazon's dashboard, that's a pretty cool time that we live in.
Yeah, I think that's why they screen movies too. I mean, for that, so they kind of get the feel of the audience. And
yeah, you could take the audience temperature, which is great. That's what we do with our Dark Crossing series. We put stuff out, and they're short stories, and we want to see how people respond to them. And if they really, if anything ever, truly takes off, and one story does way better than anything else, then we know that we could build a series around that. Right now, the biggest contender would be what would Mauricio do, which is our craziest serial killer character has a title of his own.
Archer knows what you're talking about. I have no idea. She started laughing, and I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Mauricio.
Mauricio is, I'm sad to say, our most popular. Actually, I'm not sad to say it at all, because I love Mauricio. But it is a very sad commentary on who we are as a species, that he is our most popular and enduring character. He's a monster, a serial killer, rapist, necrophiliac. He's really a deplorable human, but he's really fun to write because he's highly intelligent, and
he's that in a killer.
Well, yeah, he's not a mindless, brainless thug at all. He's a leader. He's very charming, and he has a very specific pattern to his language that is just, as a writer, he's a joy to write.
What sets him off? Or does he have a trigger, or did just?
He really hates stupidity. His one thing, and this is actually interesting. So I've been wanting to write standalone Mauricio stories, like pretty much since Mauricio's first chapter in Very First Yesterday's Gone, because he was created quite on accident. But his first appearance in Yesterday's Gone is maybe 1,000 words long, but by the time it's done, he's established as a character. Like he has an indelible footprint, and it's immediate, and I loved writing him, and I wanted to write standalone Mauricio stuff. But Dave fought me on it, and rightly so, because there's no context for him. In the world of Yesterday's Gone, he fits. He's a bad guy. He's a wolf. He's a predator. It makes sense. But if you take him out of that context, and he's not as funny. He's the way we handle him in Yesterday's Gone, he fits, but by himself, not so much. And so when we first we've written 2 standalone Mauricio stories. What Would Mauricio Do? And A Very Mauricio Christmas. And
I just like the title.
Which, yeah. Are you a goner, Archer? Did you get that for Christmas?
I didn't get that one.
No. Yeah, so we just sent that to people. People who are on our list are called goners there.
Okay.
And so we wrote it we didn't put it on Amazon. We wrote it just for them as a Christmas present. And sent it to them. And it's one of my favorite short stories that we've done. It's really funny. And in both those 2, and that's another reason I like writing him, because I like to laugh when I write. And even though he's a total monster, his one-liners are just so crazy funny that they're just really funny to write. And so we had to give him a catalyst point to what sets him off was what you asked. So one of the things that we did again that I'm quite proud of was humanizing Mauricio in season 3, and kind of making him a real person and grounding him in reality and giving him an origin story and explaining why he became the way he became.
Oh, he wasn't born a psychopath.
No, he wasn't born a psychopath at all. He was made that way mostly from his parents. But we do a lot of exploration between nature and nurture in Yesterday's Gone season 3, and that's how we do it, by using this particular character. and kind of exploring who he could have been under different circumstances. And he had a very, very rotten childhood, like pretty much the worst childhood you can imagine, starting from a very, very young age and getting really, really bad around the time he was 8. And so child abuse is just intolerable to Mauricio. He just it's not okay with him.
So he doesn't kill children.
He would never kill a child. He would never ever kill a child.
Because I didn't know how crazy murderer he was. I find this interesting. I find psychology interesting, and I love watching criminal stories and the sociopaths and how they. Well, I'm finding this really interesting.
Yeah, well, what makes Mauricio interesting is that he is a complex character, and what I love as a creator for Mauricio is that he is a favorite character among people. And we do it mostly through humor because we figure if we make you laugh along with him, then you're complicit. Like, you're complicit. Like, don't wag your finger at me about Mauricio because you laugh.
Well, you gotta have a mixture of humor with something that dark. Otherwise, no one's gonna want to read.
Right. So it's funny and so the way we built our story for what would Mauricio do is it takes place before Yesterday's Gone because clearly the world's not ended. So he's a chef, Mauricio, and he's working in a restaurant and he sees this guy who's kind of abusing his son, and he's just being a real dick. So Mauricio decides to kill him, and it's basically Mauricio is hunting this asshole who's threatening his ex-wife, and he's just a real monster of a dick, and Mauricio decides that he's going to end him because the way he's treating his son he finds intolerable.
But in a way, it's kind of weird because he's now taking the father away, even though he's a dick, away from his son by killing him.
Yes, but it's not like, I mean, Mauricio's also been without a father. Like, he thinks it's better to be without an asshole father than to be with this guy. So in the sequel, A Very Mauricio Christmas, there's a church pastor who is a televangelist, but he's a crooked televangelist. And and so Mauricio basically makes him eat shit pie and like choke on his hypocrisy, because hypocrisy is not okay with Mauricio either. Like, he is a monster, but he's also not a hypocrite. He knows who he is.
I'm agreeing with his triggers already.
Well, that's what makes him magical. Like, it's very difficult. It's very difficult not to like, he formed something called Team Mauricio, and it's you'd be shocked how many emails I've had with the subject line "Go Team Mauricio" in them. So yeah, he's definitely a fan.
I guess it gives the reader, the people who are like, I could just really, kill somebody, but they never will actually do that. But they can kind of live through Mauricio and be like, I hate those people too, and this is exactly what I would do if I had no conscience. And
if I could get away with it,
Well, that's the thing. Mauricio is basically all id. He has no he has no conscience. Which there's an 8-year-old boy in the story named Luca who looks at Mauricio and considers him broken. He says you're broken inside. Something is, I want to unbreak you, and it's cool. It's a cool character study. It's a cool exploration.
Yeah, and I think also because the topic of child abuse, because I don't know of anybody who's for that, and then the hypocrisy.
Well, there's Mambla.
Yeah. So I'm like, I can see how people are, they're like, he's doing what everybody wants to do. You know what I mean? But can't do.
Yeah, there's a definite vicarious thrill there, and I think that's why we read. That's why we watch movies. We want to escape, and we want to put our heads in somebody else's and feel like what it's like to be in their body for a time. And like, what's the point of everything being rainbows and bunnies? Because that gets a little old, and
it's boring.
We go on roller coasters because for a few seconds we feel unsafe, and that feeling of danger enlightens us in a very small way.
Yeah. And also I think because we're so pampered in this modern world, we don't have that fear of being eaten by a lion or eaten by something in the next, in the next bush or whatever. So we need that primal fear. We need that,
And
so
the new zombies let you play with that too, where you I know it's not real, so I can play with that thought.
Yeah.
It's not the serial killer next door so much, but and then you think with a character like Mauricio, an apocalypse, whether it's zombie or not, that kind of gives them you're so worried about the apocalypse. I am now free to do my own little crazy over here.
Oh yeah, well there's this very specific line where Mauricio was born, and it's the end of his chapter. My son, incidentally, named Mauricio, my 5-year-old at the time.
Oh, cool.
Came up with the name Mauricio, which I thought was an awesome name. Of course, my son's never read Mauricio, doesn't know what horrible things I did with this name he made up. But I just loved the name, and when I knew there was going to be a serial killer in the story, just because it gave a different element of danger. But I knew nothing about the serial killer until his chapter was over. Mm-hmm. And at the very end of his chapter, he says, the meek didn't inherit shit. The world belongs to the wolves, and that was it. Or the earth belongs to the wolves, and I knew who this guy was. He's a predator. That's it. This is the best thing ever. He's not sad the world's over. It's playtime, And
so you're the main writer for Mauricio, or does David help out at all?
No, Mauricio is definitely my character. We each have our own 3 characters, and there's a lot of overlap.
Okay.
But where he'll write my characters and I'll write his. But
yeah,
Mauricio is a very unique beast, and for the most part, I've written pretty much 95% of Mauricio. Okay. Although Dave did write a lot of A Very Mauricio Christmas, and it was his very best Mauricio so far, because there's a fine line with Mauricio. A few notes the wrong way, and it just sounds stupid and because he has this really sing-songy way of thinking and talking, and he uses a lot of alliteration, and his stuff is almost poetic. It's like how Tarantino dialogue has a very specific beat to it. Mm-hmm. His stuff has a very specific beat to it, which again is why it's so much fun to write. I would write an all Mauricio all the time, standalone series. I would totally love to do that. I would do a 9-episode run of just Mauricio, and I'd be so happy. But it's not one that it's easy to share writing duties on, because it pretty much has to be rewritten, because it's a very, very, very specific voice. It's the most specific thing that we write, probably other than Unicorn Western, which isn't with Dave, but it has a very specific rhythm to it also that's very difficult to mimic.
So did you make him, or did you just channel him? Did you just see him in your head and he just started talking? And
I'm sure he's got to be completely alive, his own person. And Shawn just writes it, just writes what he sees.
Yeah, because I was sitting there going the sing-song.
Mauricio's really, really easy to write, actually. I just don't think he'd be easy for other people to write, and it doesn't mean that I'm a better writer at all. It's just I know his voice, and his voice is it really is about the music of the language. So pretty much the way his stuff gets written is what is the way that Mauricio would say it, and because I naturally think that the way he says it is funny, it's here. I'll just let me.
Yes, sample. Do you have a sample?
Yeah, I can find something.
Okay, good.
So this is from A Very Mauricio Christmas. Let me just find a passage.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll read the first little bit so there's context. All right. So it starts out a few years prior to the events of October 15th, because October 15th is when the world ends and yesterday is gone. Well, ain't this some beer batter bullshit? Mauricio peeked his head past the gaudy display of tumbling orchids and overpriced lilies, draping the table in reds and whites where the fleshy fucker sat with his entourage 3 Sundays before Christmas. This is why I was brought into Percy's early on a Sunday, with Ken closing the restaurant to host a private reception for this bag of shit. See, I told you, Sienna said, standing behind Mauricio, practically gushing over Jimmy Cash, the fat, fraudulent fuck of a TV minister. It really is him. Though every dick carrier working either side of the kitchen wanted to soak their soul pole in Sienna's center field, to Mauricio's knowledge, she kept the on-ramp closed. The hell all over his high waters if she didn't seem a bit drippy. Mauricio said, shit, I thought maybe Mauricio said, shit, I thought maybe George Clooney was in town with Brad Pitt and the two of them were getting together with someone worth a shit, not some Bible pusher. That's Jimmy Cash, Sienna said, repeating his name in an almost reverent whisper and with a few more stars in her eyes. Mauricio followed her gaze back to the man in all white, as if white could somehow whitewash his wicked ways. Fat, swindling puddle of piss water too good to eat with the common folk. It was amazing how stupid people were, fawning over any sort of celebrity, even if their stardom came from preaching hate and homophobia, robbing old people of their pensions while smiling and claiming to heal the sick and dying, all things Pastor Peckerhead Cash had been doing for more than 3 decades. Somehow, despite the allegations, lawsuits, and tape footage of this dung-covered dirt hole doing everything from ridiculing parishioners as meal tickets, cheating on his wife with some big-titty bimbo to frequent media stunts hitching human tragedy to his own magic coach so he could bibbity-bobbity-boo his ball sack from their misery to his bank, the man was still the head of a multi-billion-dollar misery machine. If there were anything close to karmic justice in the world, Jimmy Cash would be sucking off hobos in dark alleys as penance for the next 3 lifetimes. Mauricio wasn't delusional. He could look in the mirror and make eyes with the monster, but it sizzled his skin to see a fucker like Cash not only tolerated, but practically honored, at least like he was in the panhandle of Florida, where Mauricio happened to be currently wasting his days. So
that's like cowboy poetry.
yeah.
I mean, I get it now. I was sitting there going, he loves words. He's like the Shakespeare of cowboys. I get it now.
It's funny because something that's a lot drier is actually harder for me to write than that, which is just is sing-songy. Like
Yes.
I'm always looking for the music in language.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love the fact that you don't have to sit there and second guess what he's saying.
No.
Like, he describes everything, and I swear to God, there were moments where I went, I know a guy like that.
Yeah.
I swear I've met somebody like that before.
He's very, very, very blunt, but I love that. So
yeah,
And he's got a really strong voice. There's no Mauricio felt this way, or there's no telling in that. It's all inside his. You are living in his skin when
he's got a unique vocab.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he describes. I mean, you don't have, like I was saying, you don't have to guess what he's thinking. I mean, he's just.
No, and again, that makes it fun to write.
Yeah,
it's not. I don't know. I could write Mauricio all day.
That is fun. I like that.
So Mauricio is in your Yesterday's Gone series, and what season are you in right now?
We finished 3. We're launching season 4, which will be Mauricio heavy, in July.
Okay, and you said there's 6 planned.
There's 6 planned. Yeah, we'll do 4 this year, 5 next year, 6 in 2015.
Okay, and then your Z2134, you're having a new season. Is that going to be through 47 North?
Yes, and that'll probably be August.
Okay. Does the Z2134 have sort of a series arc the way you've described Yesterday's Gone? Because I think you've said that Yesterday's Gone is going to have a finish.
Yeah,
like
it has
ends.
a definite end. It'll be done after the 6th one. Z is a 3-story arc, and the only one we're not really sure. I don't know how long White Space will go on because it's a really, really big story, and it really could just go on for ages. And it's my favorite thing that we've ever done. So if it had Mauricio in it, would be perfect. Unfortunately, it doesn't. But yeah, I really, really, really like that story. I like how complex it is.
I was looking at the other stories that you have available, and a lot of them, I mean, you write horror, but a lot of them we fall into the very close to what I term urban fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to kind of point to all the urban fantasy like stories that you have.
Yeah, Monstrous is definitely urban fantasy. For Nevermore would be urban fantasy. that's and For Nevermore is an interesting beast in our lineup too, because it doesn't have any swearing in it. It's like the anti-Mauricio story.
Is it more YA, or you just didn't swear?
Well, we actually wrote it as a YA book, but it's not YA at all. It's because it's not insipid, basically. It's a very smart, quiet horror fantasy story, but it doesn't have swearing. It's one of the reasons is because my daughter's 11 and I wanted to read it to her. So there's
It seemed like For Nevermore had some more romance to it.
Yeah,
too.
there's a little bit of a romance element to it, but it's again not insipid. No one sparkles. But I wanted to write something that I could read to Haley, and so there's no swearing, there's no really violent parts, there's no sex, there's stuff that I would feel comfortable reading to her.
And then you have Available Darkness, and that has vampire in it.
Yeah, it's a vampire book, but they're our style of vampires, so they're not really vampires. They're actually parasites, and they're from another world, and it's like an infection that you get. And it's almost as much of a cop story as it is a vampire story. It's very good. It's the first thing we ever wrote, actually. And we just finished our second season of it, which the first season I think is good, not great. I think the second season is a big step up. I think I really like what we did in the second season.
And you're doing all these story worlds. Is that hard to keep track and keep things going?
No, not at all. It should be, but my mind is that busy. I actually, the more I have to juggle, the happier I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I like to juggle a lot of different worlds. So I've got Dave and I have 7 series, and I have another 7 children's series that I'm working on. They'll be launching July 20th, and but I don't want to run behind like I am, with what Dave and I do, because we just do it week to week. So I've been banking content, so when I launch, I'll be a year ahead, and I don't have to worry.
That is crazy, the amount that you guys write, because Sherry, I don't know if Sherry knows this, but like you guys come out with something every single week. Like
I did read that, and I was like, how are they doing that and working? I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
that is the work. That's my full-time job. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, that's still a lot to write.
No, I write full-time, and Johnny and I have another several series in production also, and we're launching a full weekly release schedule this summer too. So by summertime, I'll have 3 books each week coming out.
You sit there like everywhere you go and go, "Ooh, I got an idea." Maybe like
yeah, kind of. I mean, it soaks in there, but
I would I need a break. I just need a day.
But I actually don't. I find that the more I write and the faster I write, the easier it is and the better it is. It's when I unplug and when I take a break and I get back and it's harder. But
like
if I'm just you know what, it's like does it take you a long time to write an email? No, like you know how to write an email. Like, so writing for me isn't much different than writing an email, at least getting those rough drafts out. I don't, there's not a lot, I don't sit there and stare at the page and think a lot. I'm so used to storytelling. It's what I write for 8 hours a day. I mean, I'm a storyteller. I know how to do it very quickly. So the more I do it, the more I hold on to that rhythm. It's like being a musician. You don't all of a sudden you don't know how to play. It's harder to not play for a long time and then get back to it. So I just make sure that I keep my fingers moving.
That's true, because I think that's with everything. I mean, with everything, when you stop for a while, it's hard to get back in.
Yeah, writers get this bullshit excuse that they don't they can take forever on their stuff, and it's awesome because if a writer if you have 2 writers side by side and one of them spent a month on their book and another one spent 3 years on the book, most people will agree that without reading it, that the guy who spent 3 years, he's got the better book. And I wholly disagree with that. I think it's possible that he has the better book, but he doesn't have the better book just because he spent an extra 2 years and 11 months. He might just be a shit writer who took that long, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And at the same time, you figure if it's taken you 3 years to write it, you've probably forgotten what you laid in chapter 1, Yeah,
it's just I think that writers tend to overthink it, and I'm from a, now keep in mind, I am not a traditional writer at all. I dropped out of high school. Like I didn't go to school to learn to write. I didn't do that. I like language. I'm good at language, and I like telling stories. That's the only reason I'm a writer. So in the world of writing, I'm somewhat of a heretic because I don't believe in a lot of the tenets. And I'm glad I don't have an education to be a writer because I feel like there's so much I would have to unlearn. And, you know, one of those things is the amount of speed and the fact that you, your ability to tell stories is bottomless. And the more stories you tell, the more you're able to tell them because you're living life every day. So as long as, I mean, I write every day, including Sunday. So if I'm driving somewhere and I see a billboard, you know, and it makes me laugh, that line from that billboard is probably making it in whatever I write that night. Yeah. And so if you write one thing and it takes you 3 years, you're only getting to put this much of your life into that book. I write every day. So my life is kind of, if I was to sit there as an 80-year-old man and read my stuff in order, I would have snapshots of things that I thought and felt and experienced embedded, whether it's, you know, in a horror novel or a children's book or whatever I write for the rest of my life. And I'm total genre agnostic. I just like telling stories. So there's pieces of me in Unicorn Western. There's pieces of me in White Space. There's pieces of me everywhere. And I don't feel like I do think quality is the most important thing. So if you can't write a really solid something in whatever, like you need to spend the amount of time that it takes. And I get to cheat because I have co-writers. And so that really helps too. We each do what we do best. And then we, you know, hire editors and copy editors to make sure that our stuff is really singing. So there's balance there. And I don't have to do all the heavy lifting myself, where I would take a lot longer to write a book if it was just me. But
I don't think there's one thing I've learned in life, or for me, is there's no right or wrong way to do anything. It just
that's absolutely true.
Whatever works for that person works for that. Like you said, as long as it's quality, you know. I think
humans have been storytellers before they could write it down, so it's a natural thing to make story. So you go to school and then you learn the right way. You're just learning this formula and you're forcing yourself in, and the whole
or teaching style.
The truth of your reality, you're losing it because you're like, I have to do just so.
Well, it's not even the storytelling rhythms that I think are wrong about the writing world. I think it's that they put such a focus on mechanics over ideas, and ideas are what people care about. Characters are what people care about. The thinking and the feeling, that's what people care about. They care about the story. And, you know, I see it like, you know, I've taught some writing classes at my children's school with my wife, and it's really easy to see when you're talking to children. And these are like 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, and they've got great ideas, and they're so afraid to articulate them because they're afraid they're going to put the comma in the wrong place. And how bullshit is that we're teaching our children that a comma is more important than an idea? It's like we're not teaching them the way we need to be teaching them to think. We're teaching them to second guess their ideas. And I think that's what's wrong with academia, is that we're placing mechanics over ideas.
I agree, because that's what I think that too. Because I'm more artsy fartsy, you know, because my theater, and then my husband's like, as long as you get an A, that's all I care about. You know what I mean? Like the A is more important.
I don't care about an A at all. In fact, if my daughter or my son comes home with bad grades, but I know that they got what they needed to get out of the class, that's what I care about. I don't care about the letter grade because it's ultimately arbitrary. I had almost a perfect SAT. I was a C student. Like
exactly. And you know what? That's all they look at is the SAT.
Yeah. Well, no one looked at my SAT because I dropped out of high school.
Oh, well, okay.
Yes. The college, they care about that stuff. They care about GPA, but people like, I mean, I was not the kind of person who performed well in school. I was not. I was not a good student. Me either. I was fidgety. I hated being in class.
Me too. I was always looking out the window, daydreaming about other things.
You know, you're asking if it's difficult to have 10 story ideas. No, not at all. But it is difficult to sit and learn one thing.
Yeah.
You know? like that bored me to tears, and I was a troublemaker because I was bored. When children are bored, they cause trouble. That's just math.
That's true. But then you got creative. You took that boredom and got creative.
Yes. we can all thank my wife for that.
So she's the one that got you into writing? Because you weren't writing like even 5 years ago, really, were you? Or
no, I've been writing for 4 years, and she tried to get me to write starting about 15 years ago, and I never saw myself as a writer. I like to talk, but but I didn't really think that I could ever write anything, and then she talked me into just trying, just try, just see what you can do. And so I sat down September a few years back, and by December I had printed out a 600-page manuscript for a book. And
oh wow!
And I thought, now the book itself is really, really, really bad. It's the worst thing ever. Like, it's just awful. But it taught me that I could sit down and write, and that was all I needed. And I've written every day since then. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to tell people where to find you, Shawn.
Oh, sure. You can go to just my website, SeanPlatt.com, and there's a little opt-in box there. If you put your email address in, the welcome email will ask you if you want a book, and you can get any book you want from my catalog, as long as it's not Monstrous or Z, because those don't belong to me. But anything that's from me, if you want a very Mauricio Christmas, it's not on that list, but I'll send you that. You can find me on Twitter at Sean Platt, except I don't auto-follow, so make sure you say hi to me, and then I can follow you.
And you have the Collective Inkwell?
Yeah, the Collective Inkwell, just collectiveinkwell.com. You can kind of see everything Dave and I have done there. I'm very proud of my work with Dave. He's an excellent storyteller, and I'm very lucky to be partnered with him. And just, I guess that's it.
Well, thank you.
Oh, the self-publishing podcast. Actually, if you like to hear my normal brand of bullshit, I have 2 podcasts each week. One is if you're a writer. Actually, I will say, if you're a writer and you're not listening to the self-publishing podcast, you are doing yourself a disservice, because a lot of what we're doing hasn't been done before, and we really report what we're doing in real time. We're very transparent about what we're doing, what's working, and what's not, and the conversation is great. And if you just want to hear inane crap about shit, Better Off Undead podcast is stupid, but kind of fun.
Yeah, I listen to the self-publishing podcast over and over and over. I like try and catch you live on your YouTube.
It's I don't listen to it just because I don't have any time. But Dave and Johnny both, even though they're there for the recording, they listen to it over and over. Johnny listens to each episode a few times because there's really great nuggets in there, and we really are figuring a lot of stuff out right now. And
yeah, there's stuff that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah, it's neat because even as something so simple as, we started using the terminology episodes and seasons, almost a year and a half ago, and now a lot of people are.
Yeah,
but,
me too. I'm following you.
Yeah, because it makes sense. And see, that's the thing. I don't think that we did anything brilliant. We just did something obvious first. And it was only a matter of time before somebody did that. It just makes sense. But we did it, and we talked about it, and now a lot of people are doing it, and it kind of it validates the culture, and it validates the model. And there's so many things. We started the podcast because we were looking for answers that didn't exist, because because we were doing things that hadn't been done, and so there weren't those answers out there for us. And so I love the podcast because I used to do a lot of blogging for writers, and I don't do any anymore because this is so much more effective. It's a much more effective way to spend my time. I feel like I can help more writers in less time, and I love that.
It's very good. It's awesome. So, and thank you very much for coming on to the show for us today.
You are very, very, very welcome. You ladies.
That was fun.
Wonderful day.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
You've been listening to the Ultimate Urban Fantasy Podcast. Find us on the web at ultimateurbanfantasy.com. Make sure you sign up for the mailing list for updates and goodies. And hook up with us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and YouTube. You can find out more about Archer and Ravenheart's The She series at shetouch.com. That's SIDHETOUCH.com. See you next time.